Boys, honestly, what are we even expecting at this point? From Bethesda, from Xbox, from Microsoft games in general. I expect nothing, and I'm still more disappointed than the first time I saw Pokemon without makeup. That was a horrible experience. That was really, really bad. I still have nightmares. And yet Microsoft is still blowing it out of the water in terms of it's gonna be bad.
Xbox has made the message extremely clear with the last round of layoffs. It's simply no risks, only safe bets. But even that doesn't seem to be assuring enough. And I'm not even coming from the angle of, I don't know if I can trust Xbox leadership. Obviously, I don't. But it's really from the angle of when you have teams like ZeniMax Online Studios having their projects canceled despite nailing all of their deadlines as shown by their content output and never missing a season for Elder Scrolls Online, and also doing so.
Okay, listen, there's a fundamental difference between never missing a deadline and the game being shit, or always missing a deadline and the game is profitable and fans love it. Okay? Never missing a deadline doesn't mean anything in the industry where 99.9% of the deadlines are always missed. It's not impressive. You know what's impressive? Actually getting results. Getting money, getting players, getting fans, making good updates. And that's just not Elder Scrolls Online, I'm sorry to say. Even the Elder Scrolls Online fan base is pretty open about the fact that the game is not really great, but there's just not anything else Elder Scrolls that they want to play, so they're kind of sticking with what they got. The game is just over bloated, pushing microtransactions in your face type of deal, and that's pretty much it. It's not really good. And the expansions, the updates, the everything, also not really impressive most of the time.
Successfully, where they go on to make $2.4 billion in revenue. I'd like to say that's a team you could trust and take a chance on to deliver something really great in an
revenue, okay? How much of that is pure profit, though? Ooh, I would be surprised if it's actually above 20%. I'm gonna be real with you. I'm gonna be surprised if it's honestly 20% at this point.
new IP. And if they needed more time, then I think that should be allowed given how consistent they've been in the past. However, now it's if you're Rare, you're not going to go off and make these crazy platformers. You're going to keep making Sea of Thieves. You're going to keep making money now. If you're ZeniMax Online Studios, we don't care about your new IP. You're making a lot of money with Elder Scrolls Online. What if we trim the fat off your team and let you keep making that? We'll make more off of you and you'll keep doing your thing. What if you're Halo Studios? You could be spiraling out of control, but we need a mega hit from you. It's hits only, it's known IP only, and it's no longer about taking risks, which is what video games are all about, as I'll get into toward the end of this video. Here we're sitting down talking about the future of Bethesda. It's a company I've covered for half my lifetime, and there's a reason I'm a huge fan of them. Yes, of course, famously so. It's because of Fallout and Elder Scrolls. That's what brought me in. But I came to love the games they published for an entirely different reason. Bethesda became so many other things to me. They'd be the company that would reinvent Wolfenstein and give BJ Blazkowicz an actual backstory and make him a character that
I'm sorry, is Wolfenstein now playable with... Oh god, What was Cat God in a wheelchair not bad enough?
I cared about alongside Machine Games. They'd be the company that reinvents Doom and brings it to a whole modern age. I remember playing the first...
Sadly, the newest Doom failed. Not necessarily a bad game, but it did fail sales-wise. It underperformed by a lot.
Doom on the Xbox Live Arcade. I had no idea how they'd completely transform it alongside id Software with 3 entries that all kicked ass. So Bethesda slowly became the home of the old school first-person shooter, but also just the random gems. They'd give me Wet, they'd give me The Evil Within 1, they'd give me Rage 2. This was a publisher that knew...
Did anyone play Rage?
...how to take risks. But in the late 2010s, as I covered, they lost themselves. They went on to chase the live service gold rush like so many other publishers foolishly did, except Bethesda wore a Save Player 1 t-shirt while they did it. They went on to make games like Fallout 76, which I know have since recovered, but let us not forget launch...
Fallout 76 have not recovered. Not even a week ago, we looked at their SteamDB, and Fallout 76 is sinking already back to the 1-2K average players a day, which is not enough. Not Bethesda, but Microsoft wanted to terminate Fallout 76 as a playable game like 2 years ago before the Fallout TV series reanimated it. But now it's almost again back to the same numbers where Bethesda was like, cancellation time's probably needed. And the biggest updates that 76 is getting is microtransactions. Unless you want to call the expansion with the red skybox like a fucking thing. Okay? It's shit. Okay? Listen, ghouls are not going feral because lightning strikes their heads or something like that. It's a joke.
76, alongside Wolfenstein Youngblood. This was also the time period that they
Wolfenstein Youngblood was a disaster.
greenlit and had Arcane Austin making
This was shit.
Redfall, which then that team went on to go and lose all of the talent that made the incredible Prey. I say all of this to set up that I'm open and honest about the fact that I was a big supporter of Xbox buying Bethesda. Bethesda was losing their ways because they were running out of money. They were forcing all of their single-player teams to make multiplayer games. They were going the way of EA and BioWare, basically. I thought Microsoft and Xbox offered a form of stability. Xbox needed strong exclusives. Bethesda had strong IP. And also, Xbox and Bethesda have a
Oh, by the way. Oh my god, I was looking for a time to talk
strong
about
exclusives.
this.
Bethesda had
Dishonored. Okay? When people talk about Dishonored, everyone's like, that was a great game. And Dishonored was fun, but here's the part that everyone forgets. There was a Dishonored 2. And Dishonored 2 was pretty much shit. Really bad compared to Dishonored 1, okay? Very bad, in fact. Also, I recently watched a video that reminded me something about Dishonored 2 that I completely forgot, okay? In Dishonored 2, there's this strong, independent female character that tells you what you're supposed to do at the very start, and then there's that reveal that that who she is, and she's like, she's Dowd's from Dishonored 1, Dowd's right hand person or something like that, right? And I'm like, wait, they just literally made her black? Yes. The big reveal is impressive because now she's literally Mediterranean African black. In the first game, she was slightly more black than white, I should say. But now she's full on Mediterranean style, boys. Yes, that is a very surprise reveal, Bethesda. Holy shit! I mean, I laughed so hard when I remembered this. Okay.
had strong IP, and also Xbox and Bethesda have a history of making exclusives together. Some of my favorite games of all time, in fact, in titles like Morrowind as well as Oblivion. So to me, it made a lot of sense and could allow Bethesda to get back to doing what they did really well, except now with a bigger budget. But now the leash is really tight at Microsoft, and worse yet, you don't have visionaries that can fight for projects and have that sway in the building like Bethesda once had. Gone are all of the names except Todd Howard. Matt Firer, founder of ZeniMax Online Studios, creator of Elder Scrolls Online, gone. Harvey Smith, a pioneer in the immersive sim genre, gone. Shinji Mikami, the godfather of survival horror, the guy who directed Resident Evil 4, gone. John Johannes, who made Hi-Fi Rush, the most successful game at Tango Gameworks, gone. Pete Hines, who spearheaded the marketing and communications for all of these projects across Bethesda's very successful history, also gone. I know I've said this point ad nauseum. Many of you who watch my videos consistently will be like, has this...
Maddie's watching my videos because I have been spewing this for a long time now, that every single piece of talent that was left at Bethesda is long gone, okay? Now the only people at Bethesda are, effectively political warriors, and that's it.
Guy run out of things to say, but it's especially important to underline today because all these visionaries are gone, and you're just left with talent who's going to fall in line and take marching orders. But worse yet, for the money that Xbox spent on Bethesda, they now have gutted them and all of their value from the people who made these IP as valuable as they did. Do we think that without Matt Firer, that Elder Scrolls Online would be as successful? Do we feel like Dishonored and Arcane would have a prominent name today if not for Harvey Smith and Rafael Colantonio, who were working together at Arcane at the time, bringing out the likes of Dishonored, Dishonored 2, and Prey. In fairness, Rafael Colantonio left before all of this. But now Xbox is in this hits-only business, and this all changed thanks to the Activision Blizzard King acquisition. And in a hits-only business, I do wonder where more, I would call them, bespoke developers fall. Let's assess two developers under the Bethesda banner in Arcane Leon, as well as Machine Games. Arcane Leon, as we saw, had announced they're working on Blade, but they also are
Oh god, that Blade thing, if it ever comes out, it's gonna be such an unbelievable disaster.
coming off of Deathloop, which at least for
And I'm not saying it's hard to ruin a vampire game, but it seems like it's not, okay? In a game where the genre is be Blade, kill vampires, there you go. They somehow fail it.
critics, granted user score is different, reviewed really well. It apparently sold well. It hit 5 million players. It was an early console exclusive on the PS5. I feel like there's a lot of reasons why you could have greenlit a Deathloop, especially compared to a series I adore deeply. And Dishonored, I can admit, while I thought Deathloop was worse, that it did better. And that was in its first go-around. I feel like Deathloop had a lot of potential, but was it a safer bet to take the Marvel license and go make a multi-platform Blade game? Probably. Same thing goes for Machine Games. We have Pete Hines on record saying that Machine Games will absolutely make Wolfenstein 3. And I haven't fully given up hope on this one because Wolfenstein is
Surely, I mean, surely, after the two strong independent bombings of color from the last Wolfenstein entry, I am sure they're gonna make the bestest thing
still
ever.
prominent. But after the sales of Wolfenstein 2 alongside Youngblood, you have to wonder if it was time to make a safe bet and do Indiana Jones. Now, granted, Indiana Jones worked out perfectly for me. Today, I'm not really talking about the
Indiana Jones was an absolute disaster. You literally had a 15 rainbow pin day, them saying it's for modern audiences, and this was the biggest switcheroo in the history of gaming. Because we all expected Indiana Jones to be the most wokest piece of garbage in years. Turns out it wasn't. Indiana Jones was barely woke at all, okay? There was just one moment where you had to play as a woman, and that's pretty much it, but everything else was nice. The conversations, the dialogues, no one tried to, denounce Indy as a man. It was refreshing. It was completely not for the modern audiences. And this is why this game failed. Now, admittedly, the game would still fail even if it did not get touted by me and literally everyone else with pattern recognition as a woke failure, dead on arrival. But, I mean, the gameplay was like Dishonored, but without powers and way fucking worse. So, even if if it did not get a reputation of being a woke garbage instantaneously, it would still struggle because the gameplay was just not good at all.
quality of the product, but rather the creative decisions made and the money motivator behind it. Indiana Jones happens to be one of my favorite games of this generation. I think they knocked it out of the park, and I absolutely want another one. I'm not sitting here crying that we didn't get.
And Indiana Jones is obviously a complete disaster, okay? On Steam, I don't remember how many players that they had on Steam. 12K or something like that peak? Horrible, horrible statistics. Or was it 2K? I don't remember. And obviously there's going to be people, but it's a Game Pass game. How many times have we gone through this? It still didn't perform good on the Xbox. It didn't make it even close to the top 50 most played.
At Wolfenstein 3. I'm just wondering what the motivation was for why we didn't get some of these games that were pretty obvious for the developers going into this partnership. For example, Dishonored 3 is on the FTC document that leaked, and that thing has been bulletproof. Was that not part of the plan at Bethesda at one point and Xbox in turn before money started to talk and it was like, hey, we could do Dishonored 3 and probably risk a flop, or we can go on to do Blade and it's a shiny Marvel IP. Yeah, let's do Blade.
The fact that these idiots, by the way, think that, oh, Marvel IPs... This is the effect of all of the coping game journalists saying, oh, Marvel Rivals only succeeded because it's a Marvel IP. Bro, 9 out of 10 Marvel IPs die without people even knowing that they came out. What do you mean? Blade is not a surefire thing. These people are insane. They think, oh wow, it's a Marvel IP. That's gonna make it instantaneously successful. No, it's not. It's gonna be garbage. No one cares that it's a Marvel IP. If you're a gamer, the moment you hear Marvel IP, you're instantaneously thinking it's gonna be shit, right? It's gonna be shit.
You see, myself and many others were super optimistic about these partnerships because Xbox needed exclusives. They would provide a financial safety net for these companies that were making bad creative decisions. Like, it all made sense of itself. But the one thing Xbox is missing now is leadership that's willing to take the fall. And you have to look no further than, can't believe I'm saying this, but Nintendo. These people still make incredible money at Nintendo, but allow me to break down what they're willing to do for their creators that Xbox clearly isn't willing to do for theirs. And there are certain IP that will benefit under this regime of mega hits only. Yes, we'll talk about Fallout and Elder Scrolls, but it's more important to lay out here that it shouldn't be a trade deal. Xbox was here to be the wallet and the creative enabler in this process. Instead, what we're hearing about are trade deals like, hey, because we're canceling these games, now you can get a new Fallout game. What are you, an indie publisher? But that's the rationale I'm seeing online. It's like, well, you know, they can make Fallout now. It's like they couldn't before. And again, these trade-offs are being made off because it's like about mega hits only. But Nintendo, who's made their entire business off of video games, and obviously it goes without saying, incredibly successful in doing so outside of the Wii U, have done a number of things. For example, my good friend Gene Park covers here how Xenoblade Chronicles was a troubled project that needed more time and support, and Monolith Soft made proposals for cuts, and Nintendo said, no, just keep making it. And then they made 4 more games in the series that, again, barely sell more than 2 million, if that. And Xenoblade is beloved. Granted, it helps that Nintendo has IP like Super Smash Bros. And Mario, and the list goes on, to uplift franchise.
Doesn't this point go against his initial point? Isn't his point like, oh, at the start everything was great because Xbox is giving money for games to be made. They were a safety net, and now he's just saying, now it turns out bad games are bad games no matter what. I'm slightly confused here. What's the message?
This is like Xenoblade, which are Nintendo exclusive, but maybe don't sell as well. But that's exactly the point. That was the position Xbox was in. For every, say, South of Midnight, you had a Forza Horizon 5. But do we really feel like a South of Midnight survives in this new...
Wait. Which is the good one here? Is it Forza Horizon 5 or is it South of Midnight? Weren't both games kind of like disasters?
Regime? How about what Nintendo's doing here, as they were recently asked in an investor Q&A about game prices. They said, I'm concerned with the improved performance of Switch 2, it'll lead to higher game development costs, which in turn could result in higher software prices and ultimately a decrease in gaming population. What measures are you considering to address this? And Furukawa says, recent game software development has become larger in scale and longer in duration, resulting in higher development costs. The games business has always been a high-risk business, and we recognize that rising development costs are increasing that risk. Our development teams are devising various ways to maintain our traditional approach to creating games amidst the increasing scale and length of development. We believe it is important to make the necessary investments for more efficient game development. We also believe it is possible to develop game software with shorter development periods that still offer consumers a sense of novelty. We see this as one potential solution to the concern about the rising development costs and software prices, and we will explore it from various angles within the company.
Okay.
So Nintendo's also looking into how they can shorten the development cycle while enabling IP like Xenoblade. But again, it comes back to leadership accountability here. As you'll see,
I'm not gonna lie, I think without Mario, Nintendo's kind of dead.
Here, this is a breakdown of the money that's being made across executives, president, managing executives at Nintendo. And no doubt, if any of us were making this kind of money, we'd all be very happy. These are very rich men and women.
By the way, 263 million yen is maybe 2 million? I don't remember how much one yet. Yen to USD. Oh, okay. So 1 million yenis are gonna be one more zero. 1 million USD is 147 million yen. Okay, so this guy's like making, what is this, 1.8 million a year. This guy's making 1.3 million a year. This guy's making 1 million a year. This guy's making roughly 700K a year.
Over at Nintendo. But Stealth 40K has the breakdown here that says, if I'm understanding this correctly, Nintendo's executives will be making less money this year than they did last year. If this is just the performance-based compensation,
why? Why do I do these things?
they all got pay decrease. He continues to say that EA CEO Andrew Wilson was paid $31 million last year, while Nintendo CEO Shuntaro Furukawa is making approximately $1.8 million, and Miyamoto is making...
By the way, everyone's always raving about, oh, look at Nintendo, their CEOs are always taking the pay cut. Their alternative is getting fired. This is just how the Japanese are supposed to represent themselves to the public and all of this, okay? If the CEO of Nintendo did not take a pay cut to look good on paper, he would have gotten fired. That's how these things work. It's either you take the pay cut or you get fired. And it's just for good optics. The reality is, yeah, people complain about some people earning like 5 million in a year in a CEO position, but the reality is, when the average developer paying a company is like 100K a year, you understand that 5 million is literally just the equivalent of 50 people, right? That's not a lot of people, okay? So the reality is, yeah, sure, you can and you probably should honestly reduce the salaries of the CEOs of the companies doing poorly. But the reality is, if you are missing like 80 million, you can't just cut the CEO's pay. That does nothing. You still need to fire like hundreds of people. And when you're firing hundreds of people, it doesn't matter that the CEO is earning like 2 million less or whatever. No one cares still.
1.4 million. Compared to the rest of the video game industry, Nintendo's executive salaries are lower than you would expect. And if Andrew Wilson is making that much money, I wonder how much Phil, Sarah, Matt, and the list goes on of Xbox leadership and how much they are making. See, this is a cultural difference at this point. You have leadership that multiple times at Nintendo, this isn't recency bias, multiple times have been willing to fall on the sword, take the pay cut, and in the case of companies like From Software in Japan, have even given out raises or taking pay cuts as leaders to give out those raises to make sure that you maintain that same development crew to make the next game together, because that chemistry, that cohesion is so important in keeping the ball rolling. But you just don't find that in Western culture anymore. And if there was a willingness to do this, maybe there could have been a project saved, a team saved at some point down the line.
Okay, there's good things about that, but again, there are also bad things about that.
But it just doesn't work that way this year. But know that the most successful company in gaming is doing this. It's almost like they should be studied and mimicked. And you're practically choking these compliments out of me right now, Nintendo, because moving game prices up to $80 is the cardinal sin. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the difference between a gaming company and understanding what makes their gaming business go around, and a tech firm with a gaming company. And that's not me really saying it. This is Phil Spencer. And this isn't one of those quotes, actually, where Phil is having his foot in his mouth years later. If anything, it's the perfect dosage of irony. Now, let's take a look at this article here from Gene Park once more at the Washington Post. Man is the superstar of the video. He pointed this out to us on Defining Duke, and it's perfectly put. Let's read. Spencer said he's concerned about tech companies unfamiliar with the gaming industry barging into the space as opposed to the current experienced competition against Nintendo and Sony. They have a long history in video games, he said. Nintendo's not going to do anything that damages gaming in the long run because...
Listen, this is obviously sounding very cool and very pizzazz, but let's remember the fact that Xbox was memed on for not having games long before the Microsoft acquisition, okay? As I have said previously, the greatest achievement Bungie has ever accomplished was to convince people that it's actually Activision Blizzard's fault that Destiny is a shit game. Not Bungie's fault. And then Bungie splits off, buys itself out of Activision, and, well, you get the final gay shape. There you go. Have fun.
That's the business they're in. Sony's the same, and I trust them. Valve's the same way. Now, we can debate these all day, but continuing on, when we look at the other big tech companies from Microsoft, Google has search and Chrome, Amazon has shopping, Facebook has social, all these large-scale consumer businesses. The discussion we've had internally, where those things are important to other tech companies for how many consumers they reach, gaming can be that for us. I think we do have a unique point of view, which is not about how everything has to run on a single device or platform. That's been the real turning point for us, looking at gaming as a consumer opportunity that could have a similar impact on Microsoft that some of those other scale consumer businesses do for other big tech competitors. And it's been great to see the support we've had from the company and the board. This was in 2022, right after Phil had clearly convinced Microsoft to buy Activision Blizzard King. What's also funny is what Phil says here is basically what Microsoft ended up becoming, right? Because now Microsoft's golden goose is no longer gaming, it's AI, as we talked about previously, and the big push for that. Now, Microsoft is a lot like how Phil described Google and Amazon and Facebook, where they have these other focuses of the big thing they want to become, and gaming is no longer their big thing, it's AI. So gaming has been backseated, as we can see, and Phil and his team basically lost the battle, and we saw the result of that this week. But that is the difference between a company that knows how to run a gaming business, take the falls when they have to, and also chasing solely gaming versus a tech firm chasing gaming and it not working out as immediately as what AI could provide for them and their bottom line. Now we get back to the matter at hand. We're talking about a company that has told their developers through their actions, not literally verbatim, but through their actions, we're not interested in taking risks. We want big IP only. So what companies benefit from that? If you're a fan, I feel like you got to take an honest look at Elder Scrolls and Fallout and say, okay, it may finally be our time to get more content here.
I don't want that content, okay? I don't want Elder Scrolls 6. I don't want Fallout 5 at this point. I don't want any games from Bethesda. I want Bethesda's IP being stripped away from fucking Bethesda and literally given to a crackhead in goddamn San Francisco. Because that's a better shot at making a good game than Bethesda. Or goddamn Obsidian. Okay, Maddie? Well, anyway, that was a Mr. Maddie Plays 10 out of 10. Bye!